so we're just picking back up here. Let's see. Legislative and executive information mandates, all right, that may be possible. So if you're mandated to do it. There are other things that aren't in this guideline that may fall under your umbrella, but that should be at least closer to the reason why we reference 860. We'll just go to the document, right? This is our guide for mapping it out. So in the language here it says, hey, if you need help with the impact levels, go to 860 and you'll get the guide for actually how to map this out. So 860 tends to be a pretty important document. And then you can have, again, your provisional, the same levels of impact, but you can have your provisional level of impact and then your actual level of impact. So it's just temporary until everybody agrees with it. Basically what that means. I went over the keyword here, keywords, selecting, common factors for selecting impact levels. I went over each of these factors, and again, FIPS 99 is the selection of the impact levels per as FSMA mandates, for the FSMA law, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay. So we can hit some of this, and basically I play a game of keywords here. So in bullet 1, what's the keyword that tells you that you must be talking about confidentiality?
Disclosure.
Disclosure, exactly. Next one.
You're talking about the one with the how can?
Mm-hmm.
Well, disclosure is also in there, also instruction, denial of service.
Yeah, but this is the dominant one, disclosure
Okay.
information of the agency that may result in unauthorized, well that's not really a key word, but basically it may result in other types of things such as unauthorized modification, meaning integrity.
I was
So
just going to ask that.
right,
Okay.
destruction, meaning availability, or denial of services, also availability typically. Disclosure or dissemination of unauthorized disclosure and dissemination of information. So that all should be disclosure oriented. And just in bullet 2 here, it's like, which may result in other stuff happening.
So it could snowball in that the
Oh, sure.
compromise of the confidentiality could lead to a degradation in integrity and or ultimately, the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
affect the system
It's a
availability.
triangle for a reason. If you take out any one piece of it, it falls apart, right? You can't take the base out because then it would just, by now it's got to be tied together. So when confidentiality is violated, that may or may not affect integrity or availability. If availability gets affected, then, well, you can't get access to it because it's not available, so, you can't see the information whether you're authorized or not. And if you can't get to it, you can't change the integrity of it. So availability affects both of those. And so you can work the triangle and look at it from different points of view. And your technical folks will be able to help with that in the workplace. Hey, if something happens, if this system is available, what's the likelihood of somebody changing, modifying, or altering their information on it? Integrity, right? Or if I were to send a buffer overflow to this application, would it accidentally disclose information or elevate my privileges or whatever? Technical people will be able to help you fill in those pieces for the specific system.
We had a root cause analysis one time, if I remember correctly, where someone was supposed to be testing changes, obviously on the testing development version, and had been in the production version for whatever reason, and weren't where they thought they were, and made their test changes in the production environment, and it didn't work. And so, yeah, people were having to, so in that case, it affected availability. But
Well, write this down. I want you guys to write down the 3 letters CLE.
okay.
Big letters. You want to avoid these at all possible. It's called career limiting events. Okay? Career limiting events. Very good piece of advice. Avoid the CLE. It's not a technical term, but you know what I mean. Try not to go unplugging stuff that you're not supposed to go unplug in, like the DMZ.
I've seen more than one person walk out of the building.
Right.
Usually it's not because of something that did the system, no.
Yeah. The reason why I brought up that CNN video, because that was a type of attack that disclosed information. And in this case, it was intellectual property. So let's pretend that that's the secret ingredients to Coca-Cola or Kentucky Fried Chicken. Well, what happens when that's disclosed? You know, another country, they could make their own chicken with our recipe and basically not pay us royalties. One of the cool things about America is the individual actually gets to protect their intellectual property via trademarks, copyrights, patents, and all that stuff. We, the individual, can do that. You can't do that in any single country. You go to communist countries, the individual's just another person. And you go to socialist country, it's not one. You, as the individual, you can't have anything because you have to share it with everybody else. So we in America, we want that stuff. But hey, other countries want that information too. And that's what's happening right now. So the war that's happening right now is not with ships and guns and missiles anymore, because we don't win those wars, because it's tied to the economy. We only pummel the opponent until basically their economy crashes, and basically then we leave. It's not like the old days, you know, like the Civil War, where if you win, you know, you basically obliterate your enemy and they are just done. We don't fight those types of wars. So now, and these are more, today it's more white collar crime oriented, right? So if you say like rape or murder or something like that, then you go, oh no, that's bad stuff, we shouldn't allow it, right? But when you say you're stealing intellectual property, oh, it's no big deal, it's just somebody's thought. No, it's serious stuff. That's what makes the world function. And you can't expect the economy to recover when you have people stealing our intellectual property. So this stuff is very serious. Operation Shady Rat was about theft of intellectual property from all of our countries. These other countries are coming into our non-DoD systems. They're taking all of our smart people thoughts and then they're using them for whatever they want. And that's a huge problem. And the thing is, you guys remember Watergate, right? Mm-hmm. What was the significant piece about Watergate? How big of a deal was that?
Huge.
How big?
Well,
not the president now. He ended up resigning.
Do you realize that we go through a Watergate nearly every
Oh,
other day?
we got it, yeah.
In today's day, we're so used to seeing Watergate, what, meaning like same impact level as Watergate, except things aren't changing. It's not like the president gets kicked out now because of that same impact level, right? So things obviously are different between the industrial age and the information age. To win an an information age war, you have to fight that basically through the internet, for lack of better words. You have to protect intellectual property. Keep the things that are supposed to be secret, secret. Keep the integrity of the systems integrity. So these people that are doing Operation Shady Rat, they don't want to change the information. They just want to know what it is, right? And they're infiltrating our networks and our systems, and they're just taking anything that they possibly can. They don't even know if it has value. I'm sure it has value to someone, but give me the information, then I'll find out who wants it, and then I'll sell it to them. And anything to make a buck. And what it does is it undermines the whole, basically, economy, right? Because now Leo, the smart guy, invents something, and I want to make $1 million off of it and make 100,000 jobs. I can't do that when you can get it from another country cheaper or for free. It's like, wait a second, So if you ask me what the real problem is, it's not jobs. Jobs is the effect, right? The cause is all of this stuff being stolen and ripped off and sold overseas, and we aren't getting the business that we need as a country and as an economy. Therefore, the jobs aren't falling in place. So everybody's saying jobs, jobs, jobs. No. There are other factors. The jobs are the effect. Right. That's not the cause of the information. And another, just to twist your head a little bit, and I'll get back on subject. It's the wrong argument by the wrong people. Everybody's saying we need jobs, 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 jobs. That's the wrong argument by the wrong people. It should be the business people making the argument of we need more entrepreneurs or we need more capitalists to create the jobs, and why aren't we getting the help? The jobs people would go away almost instantly if the proper people were making the proper argument. And that's what I see when I hear most of the news. Because you got to look at the cause, not the effect. You cannot. It doesn't matter if you fix the effect if the cause is still there, right? So like you have cancer. You have cancer in your system. Okay, you go through radiation and you get rid of the effect of it. Okay, but if you're still smoking or whatever's causing it, it's going to come back again, and you didn't fix the cause.
Right.
You can clean the water, but what's poisoning it, right? And so a lot of things are out of context, mostly because everybody's so excited about this stuff and things like that. So trade secrets, the Privacy Act, Department of Energy safeguards information. You got your internal revenues. Official use only, right? All of your classification systems. Certain business information versus national security information. This is all tied into basically confidentiality and keeping things safe. Not everybody uses the top secret system. Private businesses in the private sector, they use sensitive or confidential rather than secret and top secret. So there are multiple systems which you can use. Here the focus is a little bit more government oriented, but it doesn't have to be. You can still look at the same thing through the same lens, and it just changes from one industry to another, but still the same process. Integrity factors reduce the confidence. Now, if you notice some of the keywords that I use with integrity, trust and insurance. Well, if you don't trust me and you don't have assurance that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, then confidence goes down. So confidence is an integrity factor. Fraudulent. You could, as a result or an effect of losing integrity, someone could gain, fraudulent, financial gain. Okay. These are very indirect ways of saying integrity. All of these have something to do with integrity. False information. Integrity means trust, and trust means true. And if it's false, anything, well, then you can't have trust and integrity. I think about somebody that you don't like or don't trust, and would you say that they have integrity? Right? No. So most of these are effects here. And again, we have to go back to FIPS 99, which says that, hey, we're going to look at the impact of integrity. Was the impact in integrity low, medium, or high? That's what we have to figure out. And people, don't think that. The integrity is that important, but think about your bank account balance. If you had $100,000 in your bank and someone changed the integrity and dropped to zero and now you only have $10,000, you can't trust that bank anymore. Why did I lose $90,000? Or why was there a change of an integrity? So don't forget cause versus effect. And it makes no sense, from a cybercrime point of view, it makes no sense to spend most of your time on the effect rather than the cause. So proactive versus reactive. And I always tell people, you are going to pay for this, one way or another. But you have one choice about it. It's going to be cheaper now, upfront, proactively, or it's going to cost you a fortune if you wait and roll the dice. You're going to pay for it, just cheaper now, right? People think that lawyers are expensive. Lawyers are not expensive when you call them proactively. You want to set up a will, a trust, a couple $100. Now all of a sudden you get arrested and you got to cold call a lawyer and you need them to come to your rescue, thousands. Just go O.J. Simpson on that one, right? How much money do these people spend on lawyers? Proactively, you very cost effective to do your due diligence and practice due care. That's not so bad in the cost. Versus reactively, the cost skyrockets. Especially when you got to throw employees and man hours, and now you're losing production time. So the impact ratings that we have, they might not necessarily cause a loss of life, but they can have a significant or severe impact on an organization. Just look at the BP oil spill. what was the impact to that organization? Would you say that was low, medium, or high?
Impact was high.
At the time of the oil spill, but now that they're claiming successful recovery, what's the impact? Now people
Who
are going,
cares?
well, you know what, the impact now after a couple of years, you know, it's relatively low. So it can change over time, and that's why we constantly have to reassess this thing. All right, availability factors, disruption of access. That would be a key word for availability. Again, disruption. Okay, and again, we tie it right back to PIPS 99. The selection of impact levels, you can base that off of public information for investigative or administrative purposes. And there's a half-decent example here. An organization managing public information on a web server determines that there's no impact from the loss of confidentiality. In other words, basically you could give the whole system to somebody and there's nothing on it to basically make a difference. Or a moderate potential impact of a loss of integrity if something is changed on that system. So think about like your credit card companies, Visa and MasterCard. What would happen if their systems went down and Visa and MasterCard couldn't process credit card transactions? How much would they lose? Millions per second. So their impact on the availability side is nearly high on everything. I mean, they take availability serious. I mean, they're buying hard drives with 5 nines and failover systems for failover systems for failover systems. Right, or a law enforcement organization managing extremely sensitive investigative information determines that the potential impact from the loss of confidentiality is high.
Right.
Possibly. I mean, these are generic in their description. Financial organization managing routine administration information, not privacy related, determines that the potential impact from the loss of confidentiality is low, but the loss of integrity is low, and the impact of availability is low. These are just examples, but nonetheless, you still have the category and then the IAC triad and then your impact levels. So they can change, high to moderate, or low, or high, or whatever the 9 possibilities could be. Right. And of course, you're going to want to review the impact levels before you finalize them, and you can get guidance from 800-60 on that. And as we were going through, we started to see that.
Not that you care, but you don't have a closed bracket on your backup one slide. After you're based on special guidance from 860.
Look at you.
It's hard. That's part of what I do.
So review it, adjust it, and document it. Rinse and repeat. Review, adjust, document. Review, adjust, document. Review, adjust, document. So in many cases, the accreditation all right, so as accreditors, we basically review, adjust.
One student's out.
Review, adjust. Basically, the accreditor, they go in and they help assess all this stuff. Well, basically what you are is a type of auditor. Granted, a lot of it's internally done, but you realistically need to put yourself in the role of the auditor. You're just there to audit and ask a lot of questions and help the process move forward. That's what an auditor does.
Well, if it's done right or done well, then when you do have those audits, they're not as hopefully not as painful because you found vulnerabilities internally rather than KPMG or DIG coming through that.
I mean, as a security guy, I basically internally for a company, an employer or subcontractor, I was basically a pre-auditor. In other words, I went through and I did all these assessments and I made all of these improvements so that we didn't have to hire somebody to tell us the stuff that we already know.
And that's the intent behind the critical control review, because as has been explained to me, is that we have internal personnel, even though it's at DHS level as opposed to CBP level, coming in saying, let us scrub it first, let us go through it, So that when and if you are audited, they're not going to find the issues that we found, because you'll have a chance to fix them.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can proactively or reactively. Some people choose, proactively. And I'll give you an example. Let's say there is an outage at a data center, and it takes 10 people to solve that problem, and it takes each of them 80 hours. Each of the 10 people work 80 hours to fix that. So what is the average billable hour per employee? Let's say it's $50 an hour. So 8 times 10 would be 800. 800 times 50, 8 times 5 would be 40. So that would be, I think that's
Right.
40,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that one little episode cost $40,000. How many times?
That's cheap.
How many times? Now you go with annual rate of occurrence. How many times does that happen annually? And you said it's happening 11 times a year. So times 11, that would be $444,000 on average. Okay? So if I, Leo, can come into a company and basically prevent this from happening 11 times because I evaluate the systems, I look at the impact craters, I recommend control, and we prevent things from happening, and that only costs Leo, that makes $100,000 a year, I just saved the company $344,000. So now when I can go to my annual review, I can say, I'd like a raise. I in 2 months, have now saved you $344,000 a year. So technically, I just paid for my own salary. So can I have the rest of the year off?
Yeah.
And of course, your employer will say, "Sure, take the rest of the year off."
Just don't come back at the end of it.
Yeah, right.
One of those career-limiting events.
Right. No, but nonetheless,
Right.
why am I pointing this out? Not because you make $100,000 a year, but because there's a point that's made, the risk of you're going to pay for it up front, or you're going to pay for it here. I'm assuming you have a knowledgeable person that can actually do it. You're going to pay for it, but if you do it up front, proactively, go to your boss and say, I need $1 million. What are they going to say?
No.
No. I mean, I don't even have to give you a scenario for you to know that the answer is no. But now if I say, if you give me $100,000, I can save you $344,000 a year. Now you can say, okay, well, you know what, it might be worth it in the long-term strategic financial plan. It's a little bit harder on the government side because basically it's fixed budgets and you gotta spend it, use it, lose it type of stuff.
We used to incorporate, or try to incorporate financial impact into our RCA process, and what was the cost to fix the immediate problem, and then the cost of the analysis, et cetera, afterwards, and then the cost of remediation, so that we have information that could be fed back to management for that very purpose. This is how we fix it so that it doesn't happen again, and this is what it would say. It met with such resistance, it was just stopped. We still do RCAs, but just financial side of it's just not even approached.
Yeah, different environments, you'll get different results. One of the reasons I left the contractor side is because I couldn't make the difference that I needed to make. I was trying to make this difference, and I illustrated my points, and I was in a culture that basically was resistant to some improvement. And so then I came back over to this side and said, you know what, I'm going to attack this problem from a different way. I want to change the world. At least I'm going to die trying. But let me try it from this way. And and this opportunity, if I can create 10, 20, 30 people a week to basically go out and make a difference, now I'm duplicating myself. So that's why I'm over on this side, so I can duplicate myself. Because I'm not even kidding you, we are grossly unqualified, undertrained, and have no idea of the things that we really need to be doing. I mean, if you're upstairs sleeping, you think your priority is getting a good night's sleep. But if there's a fire downstairs, the priority really should be getting out, right? Everybody looks around. You look with a financial war and a cyber war. You can look outside every single day and you can see blue skies and everybody's still driving their cars and everything else. but the war's not being fought here. You're not going to see planes and things like that. The war's being fought here. This is where the war is being fought. Hence, the economy is having problems. So if I can duplicate my, probably a good idea to keep on that. If I can duplicate that effort here and get you guys to go out and make difference, move mountains, and leverage these concepts, where you can take just something as simple as certification and accreditation, and now you guys can go move mountains. And that's going to be hugely important. I mean, this is serious stuff in terms of making difference. The days of just going to work and getting a paycheck and everything's going to be fine and dandy and there's blue skies outside, that's not the priority anymore. I mean, literally, we need to be more cost effective, we need to do more with less, and if you're not willing to do it, it will be done to you. So you're going to have to adapt, but even in your own choices, you can figure this out now proactively, or you can be ignorant to the subject and find out later when they're basically saying, you know, we're going to cut your position, right? Because we got to be cost effective. So what I'm suggesting is prove your value, right? Mm-hmm. Prove your value here. Then you will be the one left with the position, because we can't get rid of you, because look at all the great things that you're doing. That even helps you in your own personal life. Plus you're making differences that actually count. You know, that could be one more eye in the sky, or you know, savings that could be spent on something else that ultimately will help us win this war that most people don't even realize that we're in. But I can tell you, watch the news lines. You will see cyber wars, cyber attacks, and economy stuff, nearly line after line after line after line, commercial after commercial, a news article after news article. It's really happening, but the focus point isn't there. People don't realize what the squeaky wheel is, but I'm a big picture guy. I can take different information from all over the place and go, oh wow, well this relates to that and that relates to that. So I kind of see the big picture. And that's why I need your help to go make differences in the world. NIST 860 is a very important document, because that gives us the what are we doing and who are we doing it with piece. According to the standard. You know, you can't raise the standard until you know what the standard is. And you have to be able to measure that, and that comes in the form of impact. Okay, well, we know our security category for FIPS 199, which is basically our overall impact statement. High watermark. Would you like some easy points in your practice exam? Yes. Got to know the high watermark. FIPS 199 recognizes that determining the security category of an information system requires additional analysis and must consider security categories of all information resident on that system. For an information system, the potential security impact levels are assigned to each respective security objective, or what I call security principle: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, or at the highest level, or high watermark. For any one of those objectives has been determined for that type of information which is resident on the information system. So the high watermark, what does that mean?
If you got a high, low, low, high is the high watermark?
High. High, high, high is your worst case scenario, or the high watermark. Now we need to get those to low. Not applicable. I hate that one. Because you'll get this a lot. Oh, that doesn't apply to us. Well, according to who? According to you? Because you don't want to have to deal with me? Of course it's not applicable, but per FISMA, are you a federal agency and do you have a CIO? Oh, yeah. Well, then it applies. You just don't know that it applies. This would be the lowest watermark. Right, and I have a couple examples here. And you can see again that, it can change moderate, low, or, that'd be for contract information, or administrative information, or acquisition, or whatever the category is. So a couple examples there. It could be sensor data. It could be administrative information. It could be a SCADA system. Alright, so what does aggregation mean? What is an aggregate?
Is that the same as average?
Somewhat.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to,
combination.
if it's just a sum total though, or if it's
Why do they call concrete aggregate?
a mix.
Well, there's mixing, but there's multiple components, and you're
Right.
combining them to get something else. So I always say that you have the aggregation of data would be the collection of that data and mixing it together, like similar to concrete. It's an aggregate. So what that means for us is we may have to go find multiple pieces of information, combine it, and figure out what's going on. You cannot take things as surface value. There's warms and fuzzies. Notice the rating system is qualitative, not quantitative. You don't always have to go get a number or a dollar sign for everything. They use generic categories to make it much, much easier. This would be much harder if we had to use quantitative analysis to figure this out. Instead of using the high, medium, and low buckets, if we had to use some other system of, less than 30% or 33% or between 34 and, 66, and then from 67 to 100. I mean, good thing we don't have to do all that in terms of quantitative. But true analysis will come with the combination of quantitative and qualitative analysis. Right. Some information have little or no sensitivity, but may be highly sensitive if it's collected together. There's also a type of computer security attack called an inference attack. And so what I do is I aggregate information and then I attack that information by inferring it. So I could talk